Hey guys, welcome to Outdoor Stuff. This week the weather's been pretty naff, so I've retreated back into my workshop and I'm doing a job which I have been meaning to do since I moved in, and that's upgrade my sockets and my lights in my workshop. If you like the sound of that, stick around, and remember, while this intro's on, drop me a like, subscribe to my channel. So, new sockets and lights at the workshop. My previous installation was not done by me. I inherited this shed when I moved into the house. There's always electric and power, but it was only a double socket at the workbench and fluorescent light or fluorescent tube fitting lighting up the workshop. I always knew I'd need to change it one day. I wanted some more sockets to put my table saw in, some down that end and a light down that end because there never was any. And also the cable was this, which was a bit of twin and earth inside some hose pipe, spurred off one of my sockets in my utility room, which probably isn't ideal. So I've had a new consumer unit fitted, and now I'm fitting the sockets and lights. So without further ado, let's turn around and I'll show you what I was up to. So here we are then, this is the back wall of my shed. As you can see, I've got an existing 2-socket plug there. That is a plastic 2-socket plug, and the cable for that goes down behind the workbench, and it used to go out in the garden through a hose pipe. Not ideal, so I'm going to be upgrading that. I've just had a new garage consumer unit installed, so I've got my armoured cable coming in from the house and then into that consumer unit. So what I'm going to be doing today is replacing that socket there. I've also got a strip light up here, which is just an old fluorescent tube, and we're replacing that with some LEDs, hopefully make it more well, lighter and better for filming if nothing else, and so I can actually get on with some work. So this here, at the other end of the workshop where I've got my table saw, I'm going to be putting in a light in the ceiling because I don't already have one, and because I only have one set of sockets by the workbench, I'm going to be putting in another double socket down this end, probably under in that space, so I can plug my table saw in and I don't have to then swap over the cables, and my shop vac obviously, because that comes down here as well. And then obviously replacing this light switch because that's another plastic fitting, and I'll be putting in a more appropriate one in the shed. So yeah, light down this end, light up the other end, 2 double sockets. This is what I've got today in terms of fitting. So I've obviously got some cable, so this is just some standard twin and earth, so that'll be running my sockets and my lights. I've got some metal clad sockets. These are probably much better than plastic ones, don't go as brittle, take a bit more of a beating in the workshop. I've got a new metal clad light switch for the same reason. I've got some wire strippers, let's see how they get on. I've got, this is a 2-foot batten, it says an outdoor batten, but I think it just means that it's IP rated. Didn't necessarily need this, but this is actually quite a bright batten, so it's got 3000 lumens, so this one will go above my table saw, and I've got the same one but 4 foot long for this end of the workshop. Also I've got some conduit here, so this is flexible conduit. I did consider PVC conduit or galvanized conduit, but that's quite a lot of effort to install that, and in reality I don't really need it in my shed because I'm going to be running the cable up and around the top of the shed, so it'll be out of the way anyway, but this does give it just a little bit of protection, so I'm not going to be knocking it or anything like that, but that's what I'm using. And that comes with, so I bought this from Tool Station, and it comes with a set of connectors, so the nut and a sort of wrap around section that you wrap around, and you can screw it up, so that'll go into all of the plug sockets and my consumer unit. So that comes as a pack. It's only a tenner, which is good. And then to hold the conduit on the wall I've got some cable clips, and these are fold over, so you screw them on one screw, fold them round, clip them on. So never seen these before. They're called D-line conduit clips, and I'll see whether they work or not. So first job I had to do was to take off all the existing fittings, and I'm just showing you some action shots really of me taking off the socket from by the workbench. You can see inside of it, it's filthy, full of dust, spiders webs, things like that. Once I'd removed that, I could then go about removing the piece of wood that was there. That was holding up was one of the battens that was holding up my tool wall, but needed to come off because I want to run my conduit in that space. So I just thought I'd show you, as I was taking this off, what I've noticed is, and I hadn't really considered before, this was the socket that I had by my workbench, and the power from the house comes off of this cable here, and it came through a hose pipe. This cable is actually going then, so it's connected into the back of this socket, and this cable then goes off to the light switch and the lights. Not sure whether that's standard practice or not, doesn't feel quite right. What I'm going to have is two separate circuits, but yeah, that's what I had previously, so hopefully I'll make a better job of it. So the sockets and lights that were existing are removed now. I'm going to be replacing the new socket in this location. The conduit is going to run down in that gap. To make that easier for me, I'm going to attach a piece of wood in there so I can screw the conduit clips directly to it, save me having to drill lots of holes in the wall. I only need to drill two to hold the wood. And then once I've done that, I can then measure the conduit, run the cable and start connecting up. But first job, I will put the socket, the new one, on the wall. That'll give me the points at which I need to measure my conduit from. So to make this installation as easy as possible, I'm going to be mounting the socket box as far over to the right hand side as possible, so that I can use the two knockouts on the top to run my cables from, my conduit and the cables, so that'll allow it to line up with this, essentially where I'm going to put the conduit as best as possible. Before I had it over here, so I'd have to sort of bend in and around, so I'm going to move it over as far as over here as I can, and hopefully then minimise the effort I need to get the conduit in. So to install the box, I'm just marking out where I'm going to drill some holes in the wall, and then drilling holes with a 6mm drill bit, using some Fisher Duo power plugs to fit those in position, and just giving them a tap home with the hammer, and then making sure it's level. It's got some slots, slotted holes in there, and I'm just making sure it's level with my my spirit level. And then with these socket boxes, they come with some knockouts, so you can put the cables in. There's 3 on the top, 3 on the bottom, and 2 on either side. I'm just using 2 on the right hand side at the top. So this is the light fitting. It's a batten LED. It comes with some fixings, and on the other end it's got 2 meters or a meter of flex on the end, which is quite useful. Seems pretty robust and sturdy. And then in the bag with the fixings, it's got some wall plugs and some screws, and essentially they just clip on wherever you want. So I've mounted a piece of wood up in the roof space, so I'm just going to get these screwed on and I can attach the light fitting. So here I'm installing the light fitting. I'm just marking out where I'm going to put the light clips, and just firing those home with a couple of wood screws and my battery drill, and then the light can simply clip into position. As easy as that. I was really impressed with how light these lights were, as in the weight, and how easy they were to fit. Okay, so I've got all the sockets and lights fitted on. So I've got one box there. I've got a light up here, so I've just installed a couple of uprights here for this to clip onto. So I've gone for a horizontal mount there. Hopefully the light will spray over. As you come over, I've got the smaller light here. The reason I've gone for the light in this orientation is no other reason than I already had these supports here, and it's just easy to connect it onto. I didn't want to put the light in the middle here because obviously I use the shelf up there and then the light becomes in the way a little bit, so I've got it over here. Hopefully it'll still spray out enough light to go over my table saw. And then down here I've got another socket box to connect my table saw up. I've already got the knockout in there, and then this side of the door I've got a light switch. So next job is to get all of the cables in position. So I've got the end of the conduit here, and the bit that sticks in the sockets or in the consumer unit. You get these threaded sort of clips, and you locate the conduit in the clip, fold it over, and it just snaps shut, and then that stays on there, and then that bit goes in the box. So if I just point the camera towards the box, that then goes in the box, and then there's a nut that goes on the other side in order to screw it up. So once you've measured how long you want the conduit, it's just a case of cutting it, and this cuts really easily with a Stanley knife. And then I can put a connector on the other end, and then we can clip it in. So this is one of the cable clips that I've got, the sort of D-line cable clips that I mentioned earlier. And essentially you put the cable conduit in the saddle like so, fold that over, and then this rectangle goes onto a little tab, and then you just fold the tab over, and that is as easy as that. Highly recommend these. One screw, fold, tab, great. And then that is cable conduit secure. So I've got all of my cables now run in the conduit. You can see they're all just poking out here. I've got all my earth wires sheathed up, and then I've got my cable conduit running around the top of the workshop down to the sockets. Again, got my cables just waiting there with the sheaths on. Then that socket goes back up and round and down to this socket. I've also got a light switch there which goes back to the consumer unit and up into this junction box where I've got some Wagos connecting the switch to each of the lights. So that's all in. I would mention when putting cables in this type of conduit is I did it before I put the conduit on the wall or on the ceiling, because it's just much easier to get it in. The cable sort of grabs onto the corrugated bits. If this was just PVC, it probably might slide a little bit better. You could get away with putting it in beforehand, but definitely if you can, put all of the cable in your conduits before you connect it all up. But there we are, all in. Maybe it could be a little bit neater in places, but it's perfect for my own personal workshop. All that's left to do is for me to put the front faces on and test it up. So just a quick look inside the switch. What I've done is brought the power from the consumer unit to the switch. I've got the power line there. both the lives go into the switch. The live from the consumer unit goes in the common, and then my outline one goes into the other cable and off to the lights. This is a one-way switch, so the neutrals are just connected together in this Wago switch. I've got an earth wire which is sheathed up, earthing the box and the back box, and then the other earthing wire from there to the earth terminal on the back of the box. That's from the consumer unit. There isn't an earth line on the one going to the lights because they're all plastic fittings, and they didn't come with an earth cable, so nothing to earth. Okay, so I'm all connected up in the consumer unit. I've also got the light switch on. I've got my socket on over there, and I've got my lid on my junction box up here. Really happy with the way it's all looking. So I've left this one off just to show you what I've done in here. So just wired up a basic socket. We've got live coming in, both lives going in the same hole, and I've got both neutrals going in the same hole, and both earths going to the same terminal. And then I've also earthed the back box. It's got a little earth-in lug at the back there, and that's a separate piece of cable, all sheathed up. And I've done that because it's a metal box. That's on all of them. I've got a separate earthing strap on them, so I'm just going to get this one on, and then we're about done. So that's me all done, bar tidying up. As you can see, lights are on both ends, and all the socket boxes back in. I did do a bit of testing, but just so you can see that the sockets are all wired up correctly. We've got 2 green lights and a buzzer, which means they're correct. And there we have it. That is me with new sockets and lights. Excellent stuff. So there we have it. Upgraded sockets and lights in my workshop, and I'm really pleased with that. Now it's time to celebrate with a beer. And today I've got a Left-Handed Giant Deeper Water, which is a milk stout. Oh, that's alright. Remember, you stay safe, get some stuff done.